Well, what everybody in the United States should know, and I've been saying this for years, is that the Mexican cartels are in your state or your city, and they've been there for a while.
Today's guest spent most of his career in narcotics investigations and retired as a deputy chief in 2003.
They're truly a transnational terrorist organization. Basically, what I'm trying to say is they're in your city, they're in your state, and they're extremely dangerous.
He has consulted for several prosecutors and law enforcement agencies regarding Mexican cartel homicides and has testified as an expert witness in state and federal court regarding the Mexican cartels.
They're better equipped than the Mexican authorities. I mean, went from basic to now it's really big time where they depend on these drones. I'm bracing myself. I hope I'm wrong. I'm bracing myself for another 9/11, and I really, really hope I'm wrong. That's why it's important that we don't let our guard down. At the end of the day, this is the war. We are at war. And the war does involve drones.
Everybody, please welcome Robert Almonte. Robert, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on Drone Wars. I really am honored.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation today, and I think we'll touch a lot about it, but a lot of this stuff is kind of close to my heart, given the counter UAS work we did with CBP kind of 10 years ago at Citadel. Why don't you just start a little bit by telling folks who you are and kind of what makes you a subject matter expert in this space?
Oh, sure. I'll start off by saying I was born and raised in El Paso. I actually grew up 4 blocks away from the border. Thank God on this side. Spent a lot of time as a kid over there in Juarez, Mexico. And unfortunately, those were great times, but I should say, those were great times, but unfortunately, those times are gone forever, thanks to the Mexican Cartel and the Mexican government not doing anything about it. But anyway, I spent 25 years with the El Paso, Texas Police Department, 25 years, and I did the majority of my career there working narcotics in different capacities. I was a detective there, so I did the undercover stuff, by bus, reversals, CIs, all that kind of stuff. And at that time, the cartel in place there was the Juarez cartel, actually being led by Amado Carrillo Fuentes, who was known as the Lord of the Sky because he would fly big old airplanes in from Colombia loaded with cocaine. So I did a lot of stuff working with, I don't want to say working with the Juarez cartel, but I did a lot of stuff with the Juarez cartel. I've I got that narco blood in me, I guess, the narco cop in me. And I currently train cops around the country on the Mexican cartel, everything and anything to do with the Mexican cartel, their extracurricular activities, everything about them. So that's pretty much all there is to know about me anyway.
Robert, what do people not know about the cartels in their current evolution? Because there's been many stages of the cartel's life cycle here that they should know today.
Well, what everybody in the United States should know, and I've been saying this for years, is that the Mexican cartels are in your state or in your city, and they've been there for a while. They're truly a transnational terrorist organization, and they truly are terrorists. They're barbaric. I'm talking about the things that they do to people, the torture. I'm talking about cutting people's hearts out and eating their heart and bragging about it. I mean, these guys are less than a human being, and they have no respect for other human beings, no respect for life. So basically what I'm trying to say is they're in your city, they're in your state, and they're extremely dangerous, and they're becoming more dangerous. And the thing about the cartel when it comes to violence, and like I mentioned that guy eating a heart, that's an example of the cartel trying to outdo each other when it comes to the violence, sending a message like, in other words, oh, you think that's bad? Take a look at this. See what we're going to do to you. And then you keep upping that until, nothing's off limits. Nothing's off limits. You just can't, put a limit on the kind of violence that these guys are capable of. So that's the Mexican cartels have evolved too. They're It used to be just very, basic, mind your own business kind of stuff. But they're at war with each other. They're at war with the government in Mexico, and they're at war here in the United States with U.S. law enforcement. And so, U.S. law enforcement. That's why I do this training around the country. Is I provide information to law enforcement officers that I believe is going to enhance their safety. I also provide information to law enforcement officers about where to go look for these guys. What are they doing when they're not moving dope or moving people? What are they doing? And I talk about a lot of different things about the Mexican cartel. But now, the Mexican cartel that used to be, like in my days, dealing with the Juarez cartel, Amado bringing a lot of marijuana back then and cocaine. And that was it. But they changed now because and heroin. I bought a lot of heroin when I was working undercover there in El Paso. So we had heroin, we had marijuana, and we had cocaine. And now we have fentanyl, we have methamphetamine, we have a lot of other things that we weren't dealing with back then. But the Mexican cartels were growing their own marijuana back then, so they didn't need anybody. I'm talking about other criminal organizations from other countries. And then they were growing their poppy plant to get the opium to make the heroin. So they didn't need anybody there for those kind of things. Now, when it comes to cocaine, they were going directly to Colombia and bringing the plane loads of cocaine. And we're talking about fentanyl and methamphetamine. Well, you need other people. You need precursor chemicals. And they get those precursor chemicals from the Chinese criminal organization, who, by the way, have been living in Mexico for years and years, and they've been working with the Mexican cartel. So the Mexican cartels now also they're truly a transnational terrorist organization. And I'm going to keep saying that because I don't care what anybody says, they are not harmless. They are truly terrorists. And I'm so happy to see that President Trump is up the game. The gloves have come off, and that's what needed to happen. And the other thing people need to know about the Mexican cartel is that we cannot rely on the Mexican government to do anything about it, because the bottom line of the Mexican cartel control what's going on in Mexico. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what President Scheinbaum said, the previous president, Calderon, Peña Nieto. And the biggest driving force that allows the Mexican cartel to do what they're doing right now is the corruption. The corruption in law enforcement, in the military in Mexico, and also in the actual Mexican government, all the way up to the office of the president of Mexico.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good segue into kind of the broader topic we want to talk about today. We'll talk about drone technologies and unmanned systems with the cartels in a second, but over the years, how have you seen different technologies deployed by the cartels to allow them to either traffic, their wares, or use this technology to fight against their enemies?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a very interesting point you made, because that's exactly what the cartels are using. They're using technology, and then they're also able to do a lot of what they're doing right now through the use of social media. I mean, they do a lot of recruiting, a lot of messaging there. I'm talking about recruiting not just in Mexico. I'm talking about recruiting people on our side of the border to go pick up a load of dope or a load of people to smuggle them into the United States. So the social media has been a big, big deal for the Mexican cartels, and it's allowed them to make a lot more money than they've ever made before. Other technology, I mean, these guys set up their own cell phone towers. I mean, they kind of are big. We're talking about an unbelievable amount of money that the Mexican cartels have, that they can do whatever they want, and they're doing that. And we're talking about outfitting the cartel members with the best equipment, tactical gear, all kinds of equipment. They're better equipped than the Mexican authorities. They're just much more better equipped than they are. And as far as we're going to talk about drones, but I mean that's evolved quite a bit. I mean, went from basic to now it's really big time where they depend on these drones. And so anyway, yeah, they've advanced quite a bit because of social media and technology.
Yeah, it's something that like it always is fascinating to me, right? Like these organizations make so much money that they're able to actually adopt technology faster, not only than the Mexican government, but a lot of times even like the United States military or the United States border could control, because there's no procurement process. They want something, they'll just go and buy it. And that allows them to have the newest and greatest stuff constantly, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the other I guess biggest changes I've noticed in how the cartels operate. I was talking about how the cartel didn't need anybody when they were dealing heroin and marijuana and even cocaine. I mean, except for going to get it. But now because of math and fentanyl, they need the Chinese criminal organization. But not only that, is that uh, the Mexican cartel, especially the CJNG cartel and the Sinaloa cartel, have truly become two uh, transnational powers that they have their footprint all over the world. I'm talking in Europe, I'm talking everywhere. And here's the deal is that the Mexican cartel, they're working with the existing criminal organizations that are in those countries, and that's why they're able to do a lot of things. You know, I don't know if we're going to go there. Well, I'm going to go there now if you don't mind. But if you don't want me to tell
Sure.
me,
Let's
I'm
hear it,
talking
man.
about
Yeah.
I'm talking about Maduro. Okay, Maduro from Venezuela. Okay, he's over here on our side right now. But the United States, we've been getting the Mexican cartel have been getting a lot of the cocaine from Colombia, but they're also getting it not just from Colombia, because a lot of that cocaine goes from Colombia right next door across the border to Venezuela, and then that cocaine comes over to the United States. So something that's very interesting here. Remember, I guess September maybe, where President Trump sent all the forces over there to surround Venezuela before he took down Maduro. Well, let me tell you why I think that happened,
Mm-hmm.
or how that happened. Because just a couple of months before, I believe in July of last year, we were able to get uh, Mayo Zambada brought over here. And actually, yes, he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped by Chapo Guzman's son, Joaquin. And Joaquin is actually the godson of Mayo Zambada. So Joaquin tricked Mayo into going to a meeting where Mayo thought he was going to be a mediator at a meeting between a government official and a cartel member. And as soon as he walked into that room, they kidnapped him and they put him on a plane. They zip tied him, put him on a plane, and they brought him over on a little plane over there at Santa Teresa Airport in New Mexico, right next to El Paso, Texas. Okay, so he appears in federal court in El Paso and he pleads not guilty. All right, so here's the deal. Here's what happened. A couple of weeks later, maybe, he changed his plea to guilty. And right after that, that's when President Trump sent all these boats over there to the border surrounding Venezuela. I believe
Hmm.
that Mayo Zambada gave up information. He cut a deal. He cut a deal with our government to provide information, overwhelming information, evidence, if you will, that Maduro was supplying him, Mayo Zambada, with cocaine. And that's what happened. Now, when I say cut a deal, that doesn't mean that Mayo's going to get out of jail. That's not going to happen. He's going to be sentenced to life and he's going to die in jail. When these type of high level ranking cartel members cut deals with our government, that doesn't mean they're going to get off easy. They're going to die in jail. The kind of deals they cut is they're cutting deals for their family member. Maybe they get our government to get their family members that are in Mexico, get them across over here safely so that they don't get killed. And then, a lot of this drug money, we seize a lot of their assets that are in their banks and all that kind of stuff. But the cash that may be hidden somewhere, I'm not saying this, but I believe there's a possibility that, well, maybe we didn't find it. And then now the family members have access to it. You see what I'm saying? So those are the kind of deals they cut. So I believe that's what happened with Maduro. And yeah, you got the Colombian government also, a lot of corruption there. We know about Venezuela and a lot of that cocaine coming across and coming over here into the United States.
That's fascinating. I mean, frankly, yeah, it makes sense, right? As far as like needing the evidence to then mount a campaign. I mean, it's one of the things the administration has said a lot is that Maduro is absolutely a narco terrorist as well, right? So how do you get the information to back that up? It'll be interesting when he goes to trial what actually like comes out, and then you'll be able to probably with some more clarity validate if your theory is right or not, Robert. You know,
Right. No, absolutely. And then let's throw into the equation the Tren de Aragua gang that are causing all kinds of problems over here. They originated out of Venezuela. And actually, they were working for Maduro's cartel, which the name of Maduro's cartel, the Cartel del Sol, Cartel of the Suns. And TDA basically did all the work for the Cartel of the Sun working for Maduro. TDA was assigned by President Maduro or his people to kill people around the United States. And a lot of these people they killed were former members of the Venezuelan military that left. They couldn't.
all right. Well, let's switch gears here for a second and talk about the evolution of drone technology being used by the cartels. Can you take me back to 2010 when the Mexican government for the first time issued an international alert about drug traffickers using drones?
Yeah, they had been using those drones for a while, actually the technology for those drones has evolved a lot. Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about why the cartels are going to use drones. Okay. Well, first of all, they were using drones years ago. You're talking about 2010. They were, I would call it experimenting at that time with these drones. They were using these not very sophisticated drones to drop off small amounts of drugs over there where you're at on that side of the border. And a lot of these drones were crashing into the ground. There were all kinds of problems. And then it's evolved now. Well, let's get into another reason now. The other reason the cartel use drones is to monitor activity of law enforcement, both in Mexico and here in the United States, especially around along the almost 2,000-mile border that we have from San Diego all the way to Brownsville. So they're using it for that. I mean, you want to move some dope, you want to move some people. It'd be nice to take a look at the area and see if it's clear. So that's why they're using the drone. Now, we talk about these millions of people that have been coming across or that did come across over here illegally. It's no secret that among those millions of people have been some terrorists. I'm talking about terrorist organizations from the Middle East. And the Mexican cartels have no morals. They will make money. They don't care how they make it, as long as they make money. So what I'm saying is these terrorists, instead of trying to come in directly into the United States, they go to Mexico. And they pay the cartels a lot of money to get them to across the border into the United States. And a lot of these terrorist organizations have provided training to the Mexican cartel on improving the technology on the use of drones. These terrorist organizations have also provided training to the Mexican cartel on how to make IEDs and where to put them and how to set them off. So yeah, it changed quite a bit.
Okay, so let's go to 2015, and that was kind of the first U.S. narco drone conviction, right? Back then, there were kind of dozens or hundreds of these flights. Now, by our estimation, the Border Patrol is detecting nearly 35,000 of these flights a year. How much of what you're seeing out of that 35,000 flights a year is them moving drug products versus doing surveillance, in your opinion?
I would think, in my opinion, the majority, I couldn't give you a number percentage-wise, but I would say the majority, or at least over 50%, is going to be doing surveillance. I believe it's going to be surveillance. That's what I truly believe. And then that allows them to move the drugs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the same thing, if you will.
Yeah. How important is intercepting these drones going to be for us? I mean, obviously, the CBP has been looking at these technologies now for, almost a decade. And then you see the Golden Dome plan come up too, right? But do you think we'll get to a point as a country where basically any drone on our southern border, we're going to either try and jam it or shoot it down?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. I think it's extremely important that we do whatever we can to knock out these drones. Let me tell you another concern I have about these drones is, okay, we talked about surveillance, we talked about the drug. The other thing the cartels are using these drones for is to put these explosives, basically bombs, and they're dropping bombs, and actually show video of that in my class when I do the training. Well, let's think about it. What to keep them or prevent them from doing that on our border and doing that to our border patrol agents or any other law enforcement agency? So there's so many reasons why we cannot tolerate those things being up in there. We need to take them out.
Yeah, Robert, let's actually transition to the weaponization of drones, right? We obviously have seen how the war in Ukraine has fundamentally changed warfare by using it. It started really with a lot of the cheap kind of FPV drones being weaponized. I follow a ton of the cartel channels on Telegram, and I'd say at least once a day now you're seeing videos of the cartels, especially as CJ and NG and the Sinaloa cartel fight. They're dropping bombs on each other and they're using them for ISR constantly. But like, I have been shocked by the rapid adoption of armed drones between like in conflicts between the cartels and then also with the government over the last 2 years. What's facilitated that? Were they watching what happened in Ukraine and they said, gee, we should do this?
Yes, absolutely. They know what's going on in Ukraine. They know that. But again, I think we go back to the terrorists from the Middle East that go to Mexico to be smuggled in the United States. So the cartel are tapping into their knowledge. The cartel are tapping into their training, if you will. So that's how we got there. And I think we're going to continue to see that because the cartel and you know better than I know, the cartels will use the technology. They're gonna use whatever and okay whatever amount of money they need to pay to be able to kill their enemy. So I don't think we're gonna. If anything, it's gonna get worse.
Have you seen this report that I think it was CJNG sent some of their soldiers to go fight in Ukraine so they could learn the tactics and bring it back to Mexico?
I didn't see the report, but that doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me at all. And actually, okay, I would believe that in a heartbeat, but I would also believe that the cartel would bring people over from Ukraine over to Mexico and have them actually do the training there.
Sure. And there's just reports of that from special operations forces, folks from around the world coming in and training the cartels because they'll pay them so much money. So I think you're absolutely right. That's probably an option as well. Where are they getting these drones from? Are they making them domestically? Are they buying them from China? Are they buying them from Europe? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I really think personally it's all of the above. I mean, the cartels they can reach out to anywhere in the world, to any criminal organization anywhere in the world, and they have access to that. And the Mexican cartel, what can they offer in return? Well, number one is going to be money, which they just have an endless amount of money, so that's not going to change at all. And the other thing too is that the people, the terrorist organization wanting to bring more terrorists in the United States, or what they're going to do, or what they're doing actually, is they're tapping into the existing drug smuggling routes that the cartels have in place already, and they're going to use those existing drug trafficking routes. And when I say drug trafficking, they're also used for human smuggling to bring more terrorists into the United States. I'm very concerned about the amount of terrorists that are already here in the United States. I'm very concerned about the amount of terrorists that are in Mexico waiting to come to the United States. And I'm bracing myself. I hope I'm wrong. I'm bracing myself for another 9/11, and I really hope I'm wrong. But that's why it's important that we don't let our guard down and we're proactively going after the cartel, like shutting down the border, shutting down their tunnels, shooting down their drone, doing whatever we do. Because at the end of the day, this is the war. We are at war. And the war does involve drones. So yeah, we need to treat it like a war. And when you're at a war, you fight to win to end that war.
I want to ask you, I want to change the technology discussion for a second from drones that are in the air to the narco subs, right? These have been around and talked about now for almost 2 decades, probably even more. Talk about how much more sophisticated these boats have gotten over the last kind of 10 years.
Much more sophisticated. These boats, these subs, much more sophisticated. I went to Colombia about 3 years ago, and I had a meeting with the head of the intelligence, or one of the high-ranking members of the intelligence unit for the Colombian National Police, and they gave me examples of how much that evolved, and the Mexican Cartel are in Colombia, and they're working with the existing criminal organizations and terrorist organizations that are there in Colombia, and they're basically improving the technology involving the narco subs, and these narco subs you can load a ton of cocaine easily, a ton of cocaine into one narco sub, and send it from Colombia to Mexico. That's what CJNG, that's what his mentor was doing. He was doing a lot of that. His mentor was big time into narco sub, and he was bringing them from Colombia, and he brought a lot of cocaine in from Colombia using these narco subs that, as you mentioned, are much more advanced now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I think a lot of these are now even unmanned. So like you don't even have a person on them. They set them and they drive them via GPS to where they need to go. So let's talk about a topic everyone loved to discuss a couple months ago, which was the El Paso airport shutdown. So right in your backyard, what went through your mind when you were watching this story unfold?
Well, I was in disbelief. The first thing I'm thinking, how can this happen to shut down the airport? So I'm waiting for more information, and I'm reaching out to my contacts out there, and then in all honesty, they were kind of in the dark too, because we really didn't know what was going on. And I got to be honest with you, I'm still hearing different reasons for why that happened. I think the thing I heard the most was that it was actually a weather balloon or something like that, some kind of balloon. But you see, those are the kind of things that are going to cause a reaction on our end, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would rather overreact than not react at all. So I'm not laughing at that at all, because again, I really believe that I prefer overreaction to no reaction at all.
So Robert, I've kind of one last question here in closing for you, right? If you were king for a day, what change you would make to get ahead of the cartel threat? And that could be a change in law, in technology, or in policy.
I truly believe the only way we're going to, so I guess where I'm going with this, I'm looking more toward policy, and the policy in dealing with Mexico. Mexico is not going to change unless we make them change. And then I've gone into Mexico many times to do research on the Mexican cartel. And while there, I interact with the good people of Mexico. And I ask them questions like, what do you think the biggest problem in Mexico is? Why are the cartels so much in control? And the word they always give me is one word: corruption. Corruption with their government. And then I ask them, do you see that changing? They said, no, it's not going to change unless, the United States does something about it. So what gets me is President Sheinbaum and the previous president, Obrador, who was a joke, and Peña Nieto, Calderon. Their biggest deal, whenever the United States brings up about, hey, let's work together, let's go after the cartel, they always fall back on this one word that pisses me off. One phrase. We're a sovereign nation. You know what? Shut that.
Sovereignty.
You're a sovereign nation, but you're killing your people. And because of that, a lot of people in the United States are being killed because of all the bullshit drugs that are. I should have asked you, Dan. Okay, for me to cuss once in a while. I didn't realize I was doing that, and I apologize for that.
No, we got a potty mouth. Don't worry, you're good.
It's pissing me off. You know what I'm saying? So when Sheinbaum and all these other presidents say, "Hey, leave us alone. We're a sovereign country," okay, all right, enough of that bullshit. Then President Trump needs to do what he's doing right now. The gloves are coming off. We're going to go in there and take care of business. And this is what I mean, okay? And I'm an advocate for this. These Mexican cartels had been declared terrorist organizations, right? No different than a terrorist organization in the Middle East, right? No different. So why can't we go after the Mexican cartel in the same manner that we go after the terrorists in the Middle East and just blow them up? I think that's what needs to happen. That's the only thing. That's what needs to happen to change things in Mexico and send a message. And I'm telling you, the good people in Mexico, they want that. They welcome that. They want our help, and that's also going to help our country. We're gonna see less people dying from all these drugs that come across the border.
If people want to find you, where do you have a website? Are you on Twitter? Are you on LinkedIn? What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
It's MexicanCartels.org is my website. And for all your law enforcement listeners out there, all my training's listed on there. That's all I do is train cops, and I believe in it. I have a passion for it. And I want to do anything I can do to get these cops to go home every night to their families.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to catch all the latest insights for all things defense and geopolitics.